Hi, my name's Isaac, and this is a brand new 2024 Subaru Crosstrek Premium. And today, I'm gonna review it for you guys. The Crosstrek has been newly refreshed for the 2024 model year, and so I'd like to continue my quest to discover why is this car so popular? Because this has been a sales juggernaut for Subaru. And I wonder, is it the exterior styling, maybe the relatively affordable price, or perhaps it's the interior comfort or the technology that this car has that draws people in? Or maybe this is an ultimately unanswerable question because everybody would say something different. Look, either way, it makes a good title for a YouTube video. So without further ado, let's try to answer that question today.
Before we begin, I'd like to thank Blaze Alexander Subaru in Muncie, PA for allowing me to borrow this vehicle to review. For all your Subaru needs in the Muncie area, I'll leave a link to their website in the description below.
Starting out with the front end, as I mentioned up top, this has been newly redesigned for 2024, though not too much. It's sharper and a little bit more rugged, but it still retains that overall Crosstrek look. It's unmistakably the same car as the outgoing model. Now, there are a few things of note up here. For one, you'll get LED headlights and LED fog lights on this Premium. And I mentioned this when I reviewed the previous body style. It's fun to see that it carried over here. There is clearly a spot for a camera on the grille below the Subaru logo. That's probably an option on the higher trims. But you don't get that here. It just has a cutout for it, and I think that's really funny.
Moving underneath the hood in this Crosstrek Premium, it's powered by a 2-liter 4-cylinder, making 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. Not particularly great numbers for this engine, though if you're looking for a little bit more power, a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder is also available on higher trims. No matter which engine you go with, they're both paired to a continuously variable transmission, and all-wheel drive is standard.
Moving to the profile of this Crosstrek Premium, starting here with the wheels and tires, you're going to get Yokohama Geolandar 225 60R tires around these 17-inch wheels. And then I really like on the matte black fender flares how there's a pass-through right here. I think that's a cool design. Then if we move up to the mirror caps, they have a magnetic gray look to them with a turn signal indicator. And then you get this little Subaru logo approach light right here. I think that's a cute little detail. Then this does have keyless entry. So if you have the key in your pocket, you tap that, it locks the vehicle. If you put your hand back there, that will unlock the vehicle. And then moving further down the profile right here, I'm walking into rocks. This was a bad idea for me to park it like this. Moving to the rear windshield wiper, backup camera, and then you have Crosstrek and Subaru with the all-wheel drive badge. Then you can open up your rear lift gate, and you'll see there is a good deal of room back here behind the second row. You can lift this up to see a donut. You do get a spare tire there. And sort of like cup holders right there with some tie downs as well, and a little light to shine back here. One thing I do think is interesting, if we highlight the key fob really quickly, you'll have lock, Subaru logo, and then the ability to open the trunk and panic. Now the Subaru logo is also your unlock button. There's a little logo right there to kind of remind you. Now this particular one doesn't have the ability to open up the rear lift gate, but it still has the button. So if you hit it, it just does that. An ever-present reminder you didn't get the higher trim. Moving to the interior of the new Crosstrek, as you can see, there is a newly updated infotainment system in here, But let's start with the door panel and we'll work our way through. As I've spent time in here, I've begun to understand why I believe the Crosstrek and Subaru in general sells so well, and it's simplicity. That might have been what I came to as a conclusion before in my last Crosstrek video, I can't remember, but spending time in here has really shown me how simple this car is. And the buttons on the steering wheel may seem daunting at first, but the more you get used to them, you'll see there's a very clear layout with how everything works. It just functions the way it's supposed to, and I believe people really like that. So, like I said, starting here with the door panel, this is soft touch. This is soft touch. You'll have your window controls right here and your mirror controls, and then this is all blank switches except for the little control of the brightness with the gauge cluster screen. You'll have paddle shifters back here on the steering wheel, and it's wrapped in a fairly comfortable polyurethane rubbery material. And then you'll have buttons that control that little gauge cluster in the center, the little screen, and it doesn't really display much. Initially, I thought it was entirely black and white, though if I turn cruise control on, there is a little bit of color in the taillights and the Subaru logo, so there is a little bit to do there, but again, just very simple. It tells you what you need to know and it lays it out nicely. You'll have the volume right there that pops up. I mean, it's very, very easy to understand, and moving between different drive modes, it's very easy. You control that on the steering wheel right there. I mean, it just makes sense, and I think that's what a lot of people want. Moving over here, it is push button start, and then you'll have your hazards, a physical volume knob, and a very large infotainment system. If I had to dock this car any points, it's probably for the fact that all the infotainment stuff is hidden in the screen, which I've mentioned in the past I am not a fan of. Now it does seem, look, it's like a pun because the ventilation. Now, I have tooled around with this and this does seem to be very responsive overall and work quite well, but if the screen goes out, then your climate control also goes out too, and you have to get it fixed. You know, on an older vehicle, if the infotainment stopped working, those are two different systems, but not here. So that's one con I'd have to level against this car, though again, it is a very understandable layout on this screen. And that goes for the apps and the other media buttons that this has. It's very simple. You'll of course have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and there are a host of other things you can mess with: Sirius XM, FM, AM radio. And then if I put this into reverse, we have a normal shifter down here, nothing too crazy. You can see this pulls up a standard backup camera that does have guiding lines when it turns. So that is nice to see. And it's funny, since this is such a wide tablet-esque screen, it only takes up like a third of the overall view. Throwing it back into park here and moving down here, you'll get USB, USB-C, and an auxiliary. That is rare to see. You definitely don't see that too often nowadays on a vehicle, but you get it here on the Crosstrek. Physical heated seat buttons, which are nice. Love to see that. And this is kind of like a greenish texture on the seat. It's like a gray green. At least that's how it looks to my physical eye. I like it overall. I think it's a neat design. You'll have a 12 volt down here, which is something that's rare to see. And these cup holders have little extensions, so you can have a deeper cup if you have something a little bit larger down there. And then you also have an electronic parking brake. And then opening up this storage, you do have some barcodes down there. I'm pretty sure that's a dealer thing and not something that's normally included. And then up here, it's a pretty standard mirror with the direction in it, auto dimming, and you do have a sunroof up here, which is cool to see. But I hope this kind of conveys, this interior tour has kind of conveyed what I mean. It just makes sense. It's simple. I want to turn the volume up, it's right here. If I want to go to the climate controls, I just tap that, it's right there, and it works. And Subaru I believe, prides themselves in having simplistic systems that work. And so I think that's what people are looking for. Let's take a quick look at the back seats. Moving to the rear seats of the Crosstrek Premium, I have a good deal of legroom. I'm 5'9", and I have probably 6 inches of legroom and maybe 1.5 inches of headroom. It is a smaller crossover after all. Not the best, but a surprisingly decent amount. And then over here you'll have a USB and USB-C. No climate vents back here, which is unfortunate, though there is like a hidden little armrest with cup holders right here. And then you also do have some storage right there, only on one side though. Overall, pretty decent back seat. Now, unfortunately, I do not have my suction cup mount. I do not know where it got off to. It always runs away on me. So I'm going to stick this driving segment mostly to slower back roads, so I won't really be opening this engine up. Though, this isn't a new engine for Subaru. It's been around for quite a long time in this configuration, even though it has a fresh coat of paint and a new body style on it. It's reliable, and I'm sure that's why Subaru has kept it around. Though the last time I was driving a vehicle with this engine, it was manual. Unfortunately, for 2024, the manual transmission option has been foregone on the Crosstrek. 2023 was the last year for it, and that's disappointing because I love manual, and I think with this sleek new body style, it would really pair well together. But I'm sure Subaru did a bunch of testing and determined that 97% of their Crosstreks are sold in automatic, and it just doesn't make sense to do the manual. I wish it wasn't that way, but as my old friend Bruce Hornsby once sang, that's just the way it is. Overall though, this handles nicely. It's a comfortable little crossover, and I get why people get it. If that is the reason that people get it, with the simplicity of the interior and the layout, I'm sure the price and its styling is definitely a factor as well, but overall, it's a good little car.
Well, that is just about going to wrap up my review of the Crosstrek. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Before I go, though, I'd like to mention that I'm a Christian, and if you have any prayer requests, I would love to be able to pray for you guys. You can leave those in the comment section below. And lastly, I'd like to close out on a weekly scriptural reading. This week, I'm in 1 Timothy, chapter 2, verses 5 through 7. Quick context to this reading. It's in 1 Timothy, but this is actually a letter addressed to Timothy. It's not written by him. It's actually written by a guy named Paul, starting in verse 5. For there is one God, and there is one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus, who gave himself as a ransom for all, which is the testimony given at the proper time. For this I was appointed a preacher and an apostle. I am telling the truth. I am not lying. A teacher of the Gentiles in faith and truth. A little bit more context here. Gentiles is basically a descriptor word for non-Jewish people. So I would be a Gentile. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Take care.